Hello, Dr. Conklin's class. My name is Nick McClure, and I'm the production coordinator here at the Fleming Performing Arts Center. And although you may not be able to tell, I am standing here in the control booth that overlooks the stage in the concert hall. I wanted to take a moment to share with you the most important facets of the things that happen here in the sound booth. Being that it is the interface for everything that happens, both light and sound-wise, on stage, there's a lot that happens in this room. I do wish it was a little bit larger, but hopefully this video will help you get an understanding of what happens here, especially whenever we record recitals and concerts and so on. So I'd like to get started here with our sound console. This sound console is a Midas M32. It's a 32-channel board, which very simply means it has 32 inputs. And what's the most interesting thing about this board is that it's a computerized sound console. So more accurately, it's not simply a sound console, it's a computer with a sound console built around it, which means that I can do things like save settings. So say that I wanted to recall all the settings that I had for the Mayfair Affair, which is the theater production a few months ago. I can hit load here and it'll prompt me if I'm sure I want to do this. And if you notice here, all of these faders went back to the way that they were set that night, and all the settings and everything immediately go back to the way that I had it set for the Mayfair Affair. So we can very easily go from doing a theater production to recording the wind ensemble, who are actually on stage right now. And so this is just meant a world of change about the way that we can do sound, especially with a small staff. It's just me here. I don't really have a full staff of people. I do have a few student workers, but you can imagine how much of a welcome change this is to a console that can't save settings and doesn't have nearly the amount of effects that we have on this. Now, when I say effects, that segues me very well into just a very brief description of the way that this works as far as what all of these knobs do. It looks kind of scary. It's really not. This is EQ. Most people understand, you know, because most even iPhones have equalization, where you're able to boost or reduce the volume of a particular range of frequencies. So I can do in anything from the very highest of frequencies, and you can see here these are the settings I had for Mayfair Affair. You can see here I didn't want any of the very lowest end. I wanted to boost the high end for whoever this was. I think that this is Nick Griffo's EQ, but since everybody's voice is a little bit different, not everybody had the same kind of mic and everything. Everybody's EQ was a little bit different. So if I select here Hannah Creighton's, you can see here I didn't like those frequencies for whatever reason. I still didn't want all that very low end, and I wanted just a little bit more high end on her. And so I can actually do that with every single channel. You see here bus sends. A bus send is simply another output on the board itself. So you see here none of these are lit up, but if I say that I wanted to have a monitor mix, I have something on stage that they have a monitor, which is just a speaker on the stage for whoever's on stage to hear whatever they need to hear. So I can send whatever I want of any of these channels into a bus send, which is very nicely depicted visually right here. We have, I think, 16 bus send outputs on this board, which are those are just simply 16 additional outputs. Not only do we have main outputs that go to the main speakers, but we can have 16 other outputs that we can have any level of these outputs, or I'm sorry, any level of these inputs, excuse me,
going to whatever outputs we need them to. Now you may notice there are only, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 faders here. Well, with the press of a button, that shouldn't be up, with the press of a button, these now become the faders for the next 8, since there are 16 of them. And so say that I wanted to send just Hannah's mic to the first aux send, whatever that happens to be. Right now it's configured to be a monitor on the stage. I hit fader flip to indicate that I want these to be sends, and I select Hannah's channel here, and now I can actually simply raise this fader, and now she's being sent to just that aux send. Okay, so even though if I unmuted all of these inputs, they would all be in the main house speakers. Now just Hannah's mic is in this aux. So you can have 16 completely different mixes of all of these things. And so that's really nice. That's not something that we could do so easily with our last console. Our last console had, I think, 4 aux sends. Now we have 16, which just makes me smile. So that's just a very basic rundown. There's obviously a lot more that I could talk about here, but I'm now going to move on to our patch bay. So this very scary and intimidating looking thing is our audio patch bay. This is how we interface everything that happens audio-wise on stage with our sound console. So it's not simply that we have a lot of inputs on the stage that go directly to our sound console. Truthfully, all those inputs on stage go to this. Okay, so hopefully you can see this here. We have different sections here labeled, like for example, stage right. This is the stage right wall panel. So if you walk onto the stage through the stage right door, directly on stage, and look to your left, there's a wall panel there with a lot of audio inputs and things in it. This is the other side of those inputs. So if I plug a mic into input 1, that audio comes to this physical hole right here. So say that I want to plug whatever I have on stage in input 1 in that stage right wall panel into channel 1 of our sound console. Well, that's very easy. I have one end of this cable up here, and the other end, if you look right here, this label here says bottom row through to console. So this is the other side of our input 1 on the sound console. Okay, so although these look all of the same, they're actually not. Most of these are inputs coming in from the stage or from our wireless mics or whatever they're coming from. Some of them actually come from the choir room, some come from the band room. If I wanted to, I could connect a mic in the band room and have it terminate here and then put it into the sound console. Seldom do I ever need to do that, but if I had to, I could. Alright, so that said, that kind of demystifies this whole thing, but what this allows me to do is not have to have solid connections going directly from the stage directly to our sound console. And so if anything were to happen, if anything were to break, it's there's no direct tie to the sound console. What that also allows me to do is not have to always be crawling around connecting and disconnecting the different cables. If you think about, you know, if you have a television or something, or something going into a home audio system with your own speakers, and it goes through an amp of some sort. Anytime that you want to connect your iPod to those speakers instead of the TV to those speakers, you have to crawl around and unplug the audio cables from the TV and plug it into your iPod or whatever. This allows me to bypass that whole messy process. Instead of having to do that, I can just think of, okay, whatever I want in channel 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever channel I want it in on the sound console, I can make that get its audio from anywhere that I have audio coming from, whether it's from the stage or from the choir room or wherever it is. Alright, so having seen these things in isolation individually, I wanted to very briefly go through these things and how they relate to one another when it comes to the end goal of recording. So say that I have a recital or a wind ensemble concert on stage or whatever the event is, and I'm recording it. I had talked about how the inputs on the stage terminate at the patch bay, which then I can route, as you saw, into the inputs that I want those sound sources in on the mixer or the soundboard or the sound console. These terms all mean the exact same thing. But the one thing that I haven't talked about yet is the connection between the computer and the mixer. What's really nice about having a computerized mixer is that I can then share all the audio individually. So every input that you saw on the mixer, I can share all of that with the computer and totally independently mix all those individual microphones and instruments and so on in the computer separately from what I've mixed on the mixer. So say that it's a wind ensemble concert and I have 4 microphones. You would see 4 inputs on the mixer. You would see those 4 microphones patched individually on the patch bay. And then I would see 4 individual tracks recording on the computer. So then later, whenever I'm editing this audio after the event, I can then individually process those individual tracks. So if one needs to be brought up or down or whatever needs to be done to get a good balance and a good mix to make it sound as good as it can, I can do those to those individual things. So hopefully this video has been helpful. I kind of threw it together last minute, so hopefully I didn't leave any gaping chasms of information that I just didn't cover. It's been very quick and very rough, but hopefully this has been a somewhat comprehensive, shallow survey of what happens generally behind the scenes in the sound booth. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. My email address is njm1@reinhardt.edu, and my office is down at the end of the communications hallway in the FPAC. So feel free to drop an email or to drop by my office and prod me with any questions you have. Thank you so much.